I remember the moment my phone buzzed that night, the vibration cold against my palm. It was a text from an unknown number. "Tonight's going to be fun. See you at the party." I stared at it, my chest tightening. I didn't recognize the number. My wife, Julia, had been unusually evasive all evening. I told myself it was nothing, just a prank or some late-night joke. But a knot had settled in my stomach, one I couldn't shake. Earlier that day, there had been little signs. Missed calls from her I didn't notice until hours later. Her voice clipped on the phone, and that odd, fleeting smile whenever her phone buzzed beside her on the counter. I wanted to trust her, but a whisper in my mind insisted I pay attention. By the time we arrived at the party, my unease had grown into something heavier. The music was loud, laughter echoing through the room, people moving like waves in an indifferent current. Julia's friends clustered near the bar, and there he was, Mark, her so-called friend, leaning casually against the counter. The way he looked at me made my gut twist, an edge of malice I couldn't ignore. I tried to laugh it off as we moved toward them. "Hey, everyone," I said, forcing a smile that felt like glass over my nerves. Mark's grin was sharp. Well, if it isn't the husband," he said, voice dripping with mockery. "You're the one who stays at home, right?" I froze for a split second, my mind racing. Was he joking? Was Julia aware of this? My hands clenched at my sides, but I stayed calm. The silence between his words and my response stretched uncomfortably, charged with an invisible electricity. Julia laughed nervously, stepping closer to me, but I felt a cold distance where warmth should have been. Something in her eyes, the way they flicked to Mark and then away, told me I wasn't imagining it. "Don't mind him," Julia said softly. "He's just joking." But I wasn't sure if she was warning me or herself. For the rest of the evening, subtle things piled up like bricks against my chest. Texts that she hid too quickly, small smirks at jokes I didn't get, and fleeting glances shared with Mark that froze time for me. Every memory of her kindness, the way she used to touch my hand, the quiet reassurance in her voice, suddenly felt like part of a script I'd been cast in without knowing the plot. Later, while refilling my drink, my thumb brushed against her phone left carelessly on the counter. I hesitated, heart hammering, then unlocked it with a trembling hand. The messages hit me like ice water. Late-night plans, flirtatious teasing, and Mark's words carefully crafted to belittle me. I read them again and again, the laughter I'd once shared with Julia turning into echoes of betrayal. I wanted to yell, to throw the phone across the room, but instead, I folded the screen and slipped it back where I found it. I didn't want a scene, not yet. I wanted to process the weight of what I'd learned, the slow realization that the woman I loved, the life I thought we built together, had cracks I hadn't noticed. When I returned to the party, Mark was standing too close, leaning toward Julia with that same smug grin. "You're lucky she even bothers to stay home with you," he said under his breath, loud enough for me to hear. I didn't respond immediately. I looked at Julia, searching for any hint of shame, any spark of regret, but her face was carefully blank. Something inside me hardened, not in anger, but in clarity. I would not give him the satisfaction of seeing me unravel. I stayed calm, smiled faintly, and excused myself to the balcony. Outside, the cool night air hit me, and I let myself breathe for the first time that evening. I thought about the years we'd shared, the quiet mornings and whispered promises. And I thought about what I deserved: respect, honesty, someone who would never make me feel less than I was. I didn't confront her there, not in front of friends, not while my heart was still raw with shock. Instead, I waited, letting the pieces fall into place. Later, when we were alone, I asked her gently, carefully, about Mark. She faltered, her voice low, defensive, trying to justify laughter and closeness as innocent fun. But the truth, I could see it, hung between us heavier than her excuses. The betrayal wasn't just in the messages. It was in the shift of intimacy, the slow erosion of trust. I made my choice then. Quietly, calmly, I packed a bag. I left her a note, not filled with anger, but with finality. I didn't yell, I didn't accuse. I simply stated the truth. I loved her, I had trusted her, and I couldn't stay where respect was absent. As I walked out into the cool night, the city lights flickering like distant memories, I felt a mix of sorrow and relief. The pain of betrayal was sharp, but it was accompanied by a strange, steadied strength. I realized that love alone was enough. Trust was a foundation, and when that crumbled, nothing else could hold. That night, I stayed calm, and in doing so, I reclaimed a piece of myself I hadn't realized I'd lost.